So there's this crazy connection between your tongue, belly fat, and also sleep apnea. It's important to know because whenever we're talking about sleep apnea, we're always blaming that there's this anatomy going on. It's just always been that way. We've always had a big tongue, a small jaw, big adenoids, whatever. It's just always been the case. But the thing is, on a relative time basis, there are things that can change in your anatomy that are under your control. So this is pretty shocking, the impact of this. We look at the person on the left versus the person on the right. There's some key differences here, but before we talk about those, there's some key similarities that are the same. They have a very similar BMI. All right, so BMI is pretty high at 35 each. That just means they're too short. All right, doesn't mean they're overweight, could just be too short. But here's the big thing. Person on the left has an AHI of 59. Person on the right is at 9.6. Huge difference, same weight. So what's the driving force behind this difference? Well, look at these tongues here. Obviously, the one on the left is bigger than the one on the right, but by how much? If you look over here, quite a bit, by about 30% more in terms of tongue volume, millimeters cubed. I know you think about that all the time. The whole point of this is that the size of your tongue and the fat inside of it, the visceral fat that we'll talk about in this episode, that can be one of the biggest drivers of your sleep apnea, and it can be a part of your anatomy you can change without having to get surgery or do anything crazy like that. So we're going to talk about tongue anatomy here, and this also connects to abdominal fat. So not only will we get your tongue beach ready, also get you beach ready with this episode here. So we're going to talk about fatty tongue and what to do, focusing in on how this develops and how to fight against it. And of course, this is for educational purposes only. Always talk to your healthcare provider before doing anything with your health. This is not replacement for anything, really. And always make sure to subscribe. It's also part of that disclaimer there. Okay. Disclaimer is not subscribing is a bad idea. So, fat or fat. Yes, that's not grammatically correct, but it is true in meaning here. So, there's two types of fats. You may not know this. There's visceral fat and subcutaneous fat. Subcutaneous refers to being underneath the cutaneous layer of your body, known as your skin. So that's this right here. Be on the outside. Visceral fat tends to be deeper inside the body. So you may already know this. It kind of looks like this on the left. Subcutaneous fat, you can kind of grab it, smushy, all that pleasant stuff. Visceral fat is that like beer belly, as shown on the right here, almost like swollen in a way. All right. So visceral fat, very different from subcutaneous fat. And to think about this further, and maybe a weird dehumanizing way or decalvinizing way, is when we think about visceral fat, that's the fat inside of this thing. So like it's like kind of like the marbling of this steak. Whereas subcutaneous fat is just on the outside, which, and I'm sorry if this grosses you out, it's kind of like the same thing here. So if there were to be subcutaneous fat in your tongue, it would be kind of weird. It'd be on the outside. So really the only fat that is in here, and it's normal to have some fat, but when there's too much fat, it's going to pretty much all be visceral fat inside of the tongue. It's intramuscular fat mass, which is going to be bad. It's going to make it bigger, and that's obviously going to block off your airway. And also, it makes the tongue weaker and again, more likely to fall into the back of the airway. So, not good things. But it does not have to be this way. Because if you know how visceral fat happens, then you can help reduce the amount of visceral fat, not only in your tongue, but throughout your entire body. So, let's dive into that. So, how does it happen? Think of like a fat cell. It grows up, it's in the world, and then it's trying to decide when it's a little fat cell, what am I going to do with my life? Am I going to be a subcutaneous fat cell or am I going to be a visceral fat cell? My dad was a visceral fat cell. Maybe I should follow in his footsteps. Like, those are the decisions a young fat cell has to make here. But the thing is, it's actually not the decision of the fat cell. It's a decision of the environment the fat cell finds itself in. So when we think about on the left with subcutaneous fat or peripheral obesity versus visceral or central obesity, one of the biggest things is going to be the inflammatory status in your body. So when you have more of a pro-inflammatory state in your body, this is going to lead to more visceral fat, not only in your belly, but also in your tongue. So that's a big concern because when you have obstructive sleep apnea and also central sleep apnea, this will lead to a lot of inflammation, which will cause a lot of damage. Oh, look at that. You watch through my videos, I use this chart so much, a ridiculous amount. I've never really focused on the dysfunctional adipose tissue, but today's that day, finally reveal the secrets. So that's what's going on here. Things are being shunted, like those little impressionable young fat cells. They're being told you're going to go to visceral school, whether you like it or not. And that's what happens. And that's why in obstructive sleep apnea, there's a pretty tight correlation between belly fat and tongue fat. That's because of just the sheer relationship of there's visceral fat going to your belly, your tongue, and also other places in your body. So that's what's going on. So what do we do about it? Well, I'm glad I asked, at least. Maybe you did. So visceral fat, a few things that are the most effective, because I don't want to just give you the boring, like eat less, move more. I want to give you targeted things that have been shown in the research literature to be super effective for visceral fat specifically. Because you can lose weight, great, but if you're still in this inflammatory status, then it's not going to be the right weight, or you might lose muscle, or you might just struggle and nothing would really come out of it. So the first thing is known as time restricted eating, because eating is actually a highly inflammatory event. So when you do things that are more inflammatory, going to make inflammation worse, right? Now, on the flip side, I know this is going to be super profound. If eating is inflammatory, then not eating is anti-inflammatory generally. I'm not saying starve yourself to become an anti-inflammatory god. What I am saying is that when you have a bigger window of fasting, not eating, however you want to call it, this will allow inflammation to come down. And specifically, this is seen with time restricted eating more than intermittent fasting, which are overly fancy words for skipping dinner, which is going to be time restricted eating, versus intermittent fasting, which is skipping breakfast. And still, for both of them, having a 8-hour-ish eating window and 16-hour-ish fasting window. So effectively, that's what this is here. So this clock, which I would get one of these, put it on my Christmas list, even though this episode's it's going out nowhere near Christmas. But if you're watching this 9 months from now, keep me on your mind. So you're just having this window, say you're eating from, I guess, what would this be over here? 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. only. All right. Now, even then, that's kind of too big of a window, in my opinion. I think it would be better to have like an 8-hour period. So, like, say from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Very difficult math. I just had to do in my head. That would be my preferred window, and seeing some changes in that there. So, that's one thing you can do. So, you don't have to like count calories, etc. Just have a smaller eating window. And that will also help with your sleep. Then also is the actual quality of foods here. So on the right are going to be things that are going to cause a lot of inflammation in your body. And honestly, like, do these things even taste good? I mean, maybe yogurt, I go for that, but simple sugars, seed oils, definitely soda, which never really got the allure of soda, and beer, which is also gross. Bagels, is this a bagel or a donut? My screen's a different color right now. I think that's a donut. But yeah, avoid that stuff and go for more anti-inflammatory foods. And then the big one, I'm sorry, I'm just telling you a bunch of bad stuff here. I'm sorry, but we're gonna have some cool stuff. Or is the like, I mean, literally in 2 minutes. So stick with me here as I tell you, no snacking. So like 2, 3 meals, because the more frequently you eat, the more you have those inflammatory spikes. No bueno. So, but what is bueno is subscribing to this channel. So we're going to get into some more points of things here. Before we do, I want you to take the time to just think, wow, this channel's great. I love this video. And maybe you think I'm a little bit weird, but that's fine. I've accepted that. But what you can also accept is that becoming a subscriber comes with great bonuses, like staying up to date, because YouTube will be like, hey, here's this video that you like, and also showing these videos to others out there who are interested in the same thing. So go ahead, please click subscribe. Now, going on here, as I say, we're going to talk about one cool thing, and then even cooler thing down here is HIIT, high intensity interval training. So this is honestly the fastest way to reduce visceral fat because of the metabolic impact this type of exercise has. Then of course, make sure this works for you and your body. These are Tabata workouts, or Tabata. I'm not exactly sure how to say that. Too rhythmic for me. I'm not fancy enough for that. And it's just 20 seconds on, 10 seconds off. And you're just doing that for about anywhere from like 5 to 12 minutes. And you won't go very long. That's not the point. Again, the point is to send a signal to your body to lower inflammation and specifically burn visceral fat. So that can look like 20 seconds of burpees, 10 seconds off, 20 seconds of jumping jacks, 10 seconds off, so on and so forth. And you can pick these different exercises here. All right, that's one thing you can do about 2 to 4 times per week, and that's been shown to really help reduce visceral fat. Now, to really go on a limb here with our goat friend, that has to be a goat. What other animal would be that silly? is cold exposure. Because a lot of times when I mention, "Oh, there's fat in your tongue," and people ask me like, "Oh, what are you gonna do? Like, tongue cardio? Like, run on your tongue?" No. But there are things you could potentially do. We're getting very theoretical here. And so there's something known as cryolipolysis, which is the fanciest way to say to use cold exposure to burn, really kill off fat cells. So this would be the local application of cold to specific parts on your body. Now, again, this is theoretical. We are going out on a limb. This is our going out on a limb goat. All right. This is not solid scientific evidence that this will happen, just completely theoretical. All right. And what they found in the study is that if you use cold on certain areas, they graphed out the amount of visceral fat, it goes down in comparison to just regular fat here. So this top line that is visceral fat over 12 weeks goes down just to spot application where they put cold on one local area, and that reduced visceral fat way more than cutaneous fat. So cold is the kryptonite of visceral fat there. And that can be something you do. And I apologize for this image that like finding chewing ice. There's not a non-sensual image. They're all somewhat like this. This is probably the most PG-13 one I could find. But whatever. I just try to be somewhat normal here. But chewing on ice is one way you can accomplish this, which is also a good way to reduce brain fog. Because if you have a cooler cavity in your mouth, also helps reduce the inflammation and calm down and cool down the cerebral spinal fluid. That will also bring down inflammation, help things like brain fog, cognition, a lot of good things. So chewing ice is potentially one way you could help reduce visceral fat in your tongue and also reduce the inflammation specifically. Because not mentioned in the study is that local application of cold will bring down inflammation in that area. Now, obviously, don't frostbite yourself. Okay, talk to your local representative of glaciers and also your dentist at the same time about the correct application of this. Now, to get the most out of your visceral fat reduction here. I got three things for you. Three, count 'em. We're going to go through here. So, number one is the guide of this episode, just having things written down for you as needed. So, in case you miss something, it'll all be in there. And then number two is being able to help reduce the poor breathing pattern that happens with sleep apnea. You know, breathe too fast or regular pulls us back. That's not good. We want to have nice, slow, happy inhales to keep your airway open. That's what this help fix here. So it gives you a workshop that you go through and it helps you see, okay, what are the exercises I need to do, apply them for yourself so you can start to have a understanding of what a good breathing protocol looks like for you to better support your breathing at night. So there you go. There's that. There should be a button on the screen for that. And for door number three, oh yeah, I'll get to that next. We're going over doors number one and two still. So to get either one of these, you can find them in the description box down here. You may have to click the title of the episode if you're on your phone. Makes the box pop up. You click it for the guide or the reset protocol. I think door number three is there as well. And there's also a standalone button for the reset protocol course there. All right. So for either one of them, before we get to door number three, got the URL there. So you can go directly there, ochnow.com/visceral. I couldn't think of like a shorter word that applied to this episode and was easy to spell. So my apologies. Want the reset protocol? Go to ochnow.com/reset. And if you are quick technologically, you got some QR codes available for you there as well. So just take out your phone, boom, boom. Now, door number three, you would think to subscribe. I already asked you, so I just assume you did, but you could do it again. Door number three is to work with us directly. If you need some help, some guidance, we are here for you. You want to learn more about those details, you can go to ochnow.com/next, or you could scan this QR code as well. Either way, thank you for watching. Dylan Peckus here, and see you soon.